Hello and welcome to the final edition of Not a Car November. On the docket today is... What's that sound?
It's a Robinson R44 Raven 2 helicopter. Yeah. Engine is at speed. I can feel liftoff happening. He's increasing the go. We're flying. We are floating above the ground.
Before we begin, I'd like to add the disclaimer that if it seems like I'm not an expert at all on helicopters, and if this seems like a dumbed-down tour of a helicopter, it's because I'm not. And this is normally a car channel, but someone offered me their helicopter. Would you turn down that opportunity? I don't think you would. And by the way, sorry about the echo. I'm in an airplane hangar.
We're flying on a runway like we're in an airplane. Oh man. This is mildly terrifying. Woo! I should have asked before I started flying what I should grab onto in case of fear. Oh man.
As I already said, this is a Robinson R44 Raven 2. Robinson started manufacturing the R44 in the early 90s, and they still produce them today. In total, over 5,000 of these things have been produced, which is amazing considering the vast quantity of rivets that it takes to put this together, and that when new, they cost just over $500,000. It is a twin rotor. It's powered by a 6-cylinder piston engine. It seats 4 people, and empty it weighs just over 1,400 pounds. This whole thing weighs just 1,400 pounds. It's very light.
We're now flying above Columbus, Ohio. Hello, people of Columbus, Ohio.
This is an R44. Robinson also make an R22 and an R66. The R22 is the 2-seater model with a 4-cylinder engine. The R66 seats 6 people and it has no pistons at all because it's powered by a turboshaft engine. I've taken off the 2 front doors, but as you can see, it's a 4-door, so it's a helicopter sedan. These are the front doors. They weigh nothing at all. They're made out of a very, very light and thin aluminum and a plexiglass bubble. And for convenience sake, they do have a little air vent here. You know, if you don't want to take the whole door off and you just want a little bit of air in.
My door doesn't seal very well. You look at this build quality.
I asked the owner what this helicopter candy cane on the back here was, thinking it was some sort of airspeed instrument or something like that. No, it's just a bar to keep you from running into the tail rotor while it's spinning. That's it.
Feels very weird flying this close to the ground this fast in a helicopter. Notice I'm just clutching the frame of the door here because I don't know what else to grab.
Controls. That thing up there is called the Swashplate, and it controls the pitch of each rotor blade as it goes round and round, as helicopters do. This stick right in front of me controls the pitch, forward and back, and the roll side to side, and the movement of this stick is basically directly translated to the Swashplate. And by the way, these controls are hydraulically assisted. This lever right down here is the collective. It moves the whole Swashplate up and down to change the overall pitch of the blades. This is your uppy and downy stick. It's the technical term. The pedals in front of me control the yaw by changing the pitch of the tail rotor. In front of me are all the gauges. You got your standard airplane stuff up here. I know, I'm just the biggest expert. In the middle down here are 2 fuel gauges, because there are 2 fuel tanks. You get a fuel gauge for each tank. How nice is that? This whole thing runs on a 24-volt system, by the way. And down here is just a bunch of electronics. I assume it has something to do with the radio. I don't know. Up here in the top is an iPad. I know what that is. This thing is actually rather nice on the inside. Mostly it's just windows and open space, but above me is a headliner and a sunroof. I bet your helicopter doesn't have a sunroof. Look at these giant sun visors. I'd hope so, because it has the windshield of a Model X. In the back seat, there isn't a heck of a lot to look at, except for the entire world flying by your window. But aside from that, there's a power socket back here that's the same shape as a 12-volt outlet, but it says 28 volts on it. There's what look like They're supposed to be cup holders, but I don't know how you'd put a cup in them. They're only a centimeter deep. That's going to spill. And the last thing you want is a spill in your helicopter. There's storage underneath these back seats, and directly behind my head is all of the fuel, like right behind my head. And just like in the front, these rear doors are removable, but if you want to, you can open these little vents down here. So you can wave at people or throw eggs down on them or whatever. Tucked away back here in the rumpacopter is the engine cooling fan, which is massive.
Interestingly, the cabin heat in this helicopter comes from the engine cooling fan blowing air over the muffler and into the cabin, just like in a turbine. It's quite cozy in here. Pretty effective cabin heat.
The engine in this helicopter is a Lycoming air-cooled, because of course it is, there's a lot of air floating around here, flat 6, technically a boxer 6, making 245 horsepower or thereabouts. The really interesting thing about this flat 6 engine is that it's 8.9 liters. It's a Lycoming IO 540, and the 540 means 540 cubic inches. It's a big engine. This rather large engine in here, tucked away underneath a very large air shroud, has mechanical fuel injection and no distributor because it has 2 magnetos. 2 magnetos for redundancy. Each cylinder in here has 2 spark plugs, 1 for each magneto, again for redundancy. On the key, you can select which magneto you want to have powered so you can check that each one is functioning. Or you can just run both of them.
All right, he's going to allow me to take controls. We're hovering above the ground, above the helipad at the airport. Feet on the pedals. Okay. It's telling me to keep a little more left. Okay. No. It is. The controls are a lot more sensitive than I would have expected. Nope. I need to be softer than that. Okay. Okay. He took over controls. I suck at this.
The fuel consumption of this craft is about 15 US gallons per hour, and this engine runs off avgas, which, if you're not familiar, is 100 octane low lead fuel, not unleaded, low lead fuel. And that stuff is available everywhere at your friendly neighborhood, the airport, with a gas pump. The rotor is driven by a belt drive with a whole 4 belts, which is good because, you know, that's the thing that makes you go up. And one of the belt pulleys is on a linear actuator, so it can move up and down and tension and detension the belts, which acts as a clutch to couple and decouple the engine from the rotor. The rotor itself is driven by a sprag clutch, a clutch that only allows one-way transfer of torque, like the rear wheel on a bicycle or a 4th gear in a turbine, so the rotor can spin faster than the engine. This is because, in the event of an engine failure, you don't want the rotor speed being dragged down by a dead engine. You want to be able to auto-rotate down safely. Speaking of, during the flight, Adam took me for a couple of auto-rotation simulation runs where engine power is cut and the rotor speed is kept up solely by the air rushing through them, which brings the craft down for a safe landing. And as you'll be able to tell by the expression on my face, having engine power cut in a helicopter is an interesting sensation.
1. Engine cut. Engine is down to 90% RPM according to the tachometer. Rotor speed is 100%. We are descending rapidly. He cut way down on the collective, as you can see, and as we approach the ground, he'll be pulling up on the collective to cushion the blow. We're fast approaching the ground. This is terrifying to watch. Going forward at quite a rate, and now he's pulling up on the collective, pulling back on the stick. And there we go. The engine is cutting back in because we're just doing a touch and go. We're not doing a proper landing. Flying in a helicopter.
And the engine runs at a continuous 2,718 RPM. These massive rotor blades cannot lift the helicopter on their own. You can see as it's sitting still here, they have a droop to them. It's the centripetal force of them spinning around at high speed that allows these blades to lift the helicopter. That's why the engine runs at a constant 2,718 RPM. 2,718 RPM on the engine is 102% on the tachometer. If it drops down to 97%, then an alarm goes off. If it drops down to 82% at my current altitude, well, then the rotor blades will fold up, which I'm told is called tuliping, which is a rather delightful term for something so terrifying and catastrophic.
Yeah, okay, he's going, I have control of the stick. And yeah, he's going to take control a lot. Alright, I'm going to cut it out for that. I'm not going to try that on video.
The engine in this helicopter is fitted with a governor to automatically maintain that constant engine speed of 2,718 RPM. So if you do something to increase the load on the engine, like raise the collective, it will increase the throttle on the engine to match. So that 2,718 RPM is maintained constantly. All this to prevent you from doing that thing that's named after a lovely flower but results in your remains being scattered across the countryside. Tuliping. The construction of this thing is your standard aircraft fare. All of the non-see-through bits are very thin aircraft aluminum with millions of rivets holding it all together, and all the clear bits are vacuum-formed plexiglass in a nice bubble shape.
And by the way, he's not a robot, he just can't hear me because of the way we have the audio hooked up. When I'm recording, he can't hear me, so that's why he looks like a robot over there. Just not saying anything, not responding to my input. Isn't that right, Adam? Yes, that's right.
So there's your basic tour and flight of a Robinson R44 Raven 2 helicopter. I hope you enjoyed this tour. If not, I sure did, so no worries. Thanks for watching.
And huge thanks to the owner of this helicopter, Adam over here, for taking me for a ride and letting me tour his helicopter for the day for a video. I'm having a blast.